everyone, and welcome to this edition of Liz Collin Reports, where we talk truth and have meaningful Minnesota conversations. It is my absolute honor today to get into the story of my guest, the definition of a true American hero, deserving of the Ultimate Patriot Award.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me, put your hands together and welcome Don Patton to the stage.
An emotional U.S. Army Colonel, Don Patton, accepted the Fox News Award in Florida last month. But Colonel Patton is a Minnesotan who has worked tirelessly for decades to keep history alive through the Dr. Harold Deutsch World War II History Roundtable. Don Patton is joining me to share his story today. Sir, thank you so much for your service, first of all, and for being my guest today.
Glad to be here. Great for the opportunity.
Don, before we get into the award, which I said is much deserved, let's get into your backstory a bit. But you were just a little boy during World War II, but in a way you said that has set your course in life, a life that you have really dedicated to service.
Well, I was born in 1939, which people say is the start of World War II. But I had a real sense of the environment that was going on. I don't know what that is from a child standpoint. Anytime I could get a magazine or a book or see a picture or go to a war movie, if I can call it that, was always an attraction as a child. When I was in the sixth grade, first year of junior high school, I had a history teacher who I found out later was actually a real hero in World War II, a Marine hero. He planted a seed. I didn't know what that seed was. But the reason it's been so profound for me is I see how important education is.
You talk about that seed. You served then 30 years in the U.S. Army, nearly half in command positions. But just tell us a bit more about your own career.
I did attend Texas A&M. I was in the Corps Cadets. I was in the Ross Volunteers, which was considered the elite honor guard for the Corps Cadets. It was the honor guard for the governor of the state of Texas, still is. I didn't have a plan for the military. At that time, I think people have forgotten until sometime in probably the 70s, all males had to register for the draft. They were obligated to serve 8 years. My assignment, as I got out of the officer basic training, when I graduated, I accepted an engineering position with the Train Company, the air conditioning company in La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is what brought me from Texas to the snow country of the north. You
have this 30-year career in the U.S. Army. You retire, and explain what led you then to organize this World War II History Roundtable, and that was all the way back in 1987. What's the mission?
I was selected to attend the Resident Army War College. The Army War College is in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. When I came back to Minnesota after graduation from the War College, I ended up not having an assignment in the reserve program, and I had met a fellow by the name of Dr. Harold Deutsch, who was a professor at the University of Minnesota. When I was getting my MBA at the University of Minnesota, I took his World War II history course as an elective, and when he left Minnesota, he went out to become a professor at the Army War College. So I took his course there at the Army War College. We both came back to Minnesota. And in 1987, we formed the World War II History Roundtable. Originally, we were going to call it a military history roundtable to kind of use the model of the Civil War roundtables that are around the country. But we were going to just make it a kind of a general military history roundtable. And Harold, I'm not sure if he didn't have confidence that I would be able to, I'm not a historian, to find topics for the program. So he said, well, let's make it the World War II roundtable. And if you can't find the programs, I'll just teach my World War II history course.
But there are over 300 programs that the roundtable offers, really bringing history to life. And just talking about that, reflecting that's 81 years now since Pearl Harbor. Just according to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs that I checked, the statistic now is just over 167,000 of the 16 million Americans who served in World War II are alive today. But this history really is disappearing quickly.
Well, it is. And one of the things that Harold Deutsch did when I took his course at the University of Minnesota, he had interrogated all the German leadership at the Nuremberg war trials. So when he was teaching the course, it wasn't like, here's something on page 385, read this or go write a paper on this. I mean, he would bring out letters. I just got a letter from Field Marshal Warlimont. We're talking about the conspiracy against Hitler. I know another time he brought out a letter from Frau Jodl, who was the German commander in World War II. And she was asking Harold Deutsch to redeem her husband. He was tried and hanged at Nuremberg. And, she was of the position because he was just following orders, he should not have been tried and hung as a part of the Nuremberg war trials. Probably the first third of our existence was just trying to find the veterans. Some of the people that I was able to find, just unbelievable. The planner for the southern invasion of France lived out in Wayzata. I got him to speak on the difficulty of planning that invasion. It came about 2.5 months after the Omaha Beach, the Normandy landings, and the difficulty of getting all of that military stuff that had been used for the Normandy landings down to southern France, the ships and the gliders and the airplanes and so forth to do that one. But wonderful presentation. One of the other veterans that was such a remarkable story in that early decade plus was a little farm boy from southern Minnesota. He became a combat photographer. He actually landed on Omaha Beach before the infantry landed. So he actually photographed the landing of the infantry at Omaha Beach. He was the photographer for the Remagen Bridge crossing in 1945. He was the photographer for the Malmedy Massacre, first photographer on the site for that. He was the first photographer into the Buchenwald concentration camp. We were able to just find these people that hadn't told their story. I mentioned the combat photographer. I finally convinced him that he needed to tell his story. And he spoke for about 1 hour and 20 minutes about how he got into the military, how he trained to be a combat photographer, and the experiences that I just mentioned. His daughters came up to me after the program and said, Dad had never told us any of that. You just think about all of those unbelievable experiences that he didn't tell to his kids. I always had a very easy time of reaching out to these World War II veterans, kind of getting them to open up with their stories. The veterans that had had significant experiences in the war were dying off. We then started bringing in prominent historians, and so we made them book signing events.
I know you've also called on other people to document their own family's military history, not just World War II, but Korea, Vietnam, even more recent wars. But what would you say to our audience? How important is that?
I think one of the concerns that I have of our society today is the attack on the families of today. One of the questions that I ask young people, but the ulterior motive is always to try to recruit World War II veterans to speak on our programs. But I asked people, I said, did you have family in World War II? And oftentimes there's this blank expression on their face. It would have been a father or grandfather, sometimes maybe a great-grandfather.
And they don't even know. They can't even answer the question.
They know who their mom and dad is and where they went on maybe spring break, but they don't know their own roots. And I think that is so important. But I think that pattern of studying who you are, where you came from, the events of history that impacted all those previous generations is such an important part of what we are today. But I'm always trying to encourage people to ask their parents who they were, where they were. Of course, we have the recent wars in the Middle East, certainly Vietnam, and it's amazing how many of the Vietnam veterans are starting to die off, and how even rare the Korean War veterans are. And the number of World War II veterans is sadly small. And it's, for me, the stories that were lost because of people not asking the questions. And again, we all have busy lives, It's so sometimes it just doesn't happen.
So then from what you hear, what you know about declining recruitment numbers in the military, Don, the way woke ideology has crept into the ranks a bit, but do you worry about our future when it comes to the military?
Very much. I have great concern about, I've heard some stories of military people being excluded from entry into schools. The military missing all of its recruiting goals has been a hot topic recently. I have a son that just retired after 28 years in the Air Force. After my retirement back in 1991, that's when he started his career. So I've had a chance to kind of become a camp follower, if you can call it that, to stay active in what's going on in the military. I've had some reports that are concerning to me about the quality of people that are going into the schools in the military. I think it all comes back from my fairly extensive study of the military and of history, is the lack of leadership. People afraid to make the hard calls, the right calls, in favor of trying to do a popular call.
For folks wanting more information on the Dr. Harold Deutsch History Roundtable, I know you meet at 7 p.m. on the second Tuesday of every month from September through May at the Minnesota History Center in St. Paul, and we'll go ahead and put your link on our website as well, but I know it is open to everyone. And I also encourage everyone to watch the Fox Nation Patriot Awards streaming on Fox Nation. Really an incredible story about your service. I'm guessing you had a pretty good time in Florida by the looks of things?
Yeah, I was actually notified last, I guess it was May, that I'd been selected to receive the Patriot Award from Fox. It was an unbelievable experience. Currently, we're in our 36th year of programs. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to people about what we're trying to do with World War II history. I hope that the significance of the Fox Patriot Award is a recognition of what we have done. It's not about me. It's about the team. It's about the volunteers that run the roundtable. We have developed as a team to put these programs together has enriched my life, and I think has enriched the lives of those involved with our roundtable. We're always looking for new people, new ideas, new suggestions. So thanks for the opportunity of having us share this with your audience.
Well, Don Patton, again, thank you for all you do, and thank you for being my guest. And that will do it for this episode of Liz Collin Reports. We will see you next time.